CBS 46 News presents Public Affairs on Peach.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Public Affairs on Peach. I'm Bobby Capel. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and this morning we are going to begin with a focus on child and teen sex trafficking. My guest this morning, FBI Acting Supervisory Agent Nathan Whiteman. He is the task force coordinator for the agency's Metro Atlanta Child Exploitation Task Force, also known as MATCH. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
This is a problem that gets a lot of attention, specifically here in Atlanta, because I understand this is a hub for that kind of activity. Can you explain why that is and where you guys see the issues in town?
Yeah, Atlanta is seen as a hub because we do have a very major airport. We have Fortune 500 companies. We have a huge amount of conventions that go on here in Atlanta. We have a lot of money coming in, and it's also one of the biggest cities in the South. Also, we see it as a hub because our task force is the largest task force the FBI has tackling this problem, and we have people out in the streets all day, every day that are addressing this issue and also documenting what we're finding.
Who are the kinds of people that are doing this, the organizers of it? I don't mean the victims. Who is running the show, so to speak?
There is traffickers, what typically would have been called a pimp. But we don't like to use that terminology when it comes to children because it is human trafficking. So the traffickers can be anybody. It can be any age, any race, any gender. So we've had African American pimps, we've had Caucasian pimps, we've had males, we've had females that were all exploiting children through sex trafficking.
How did those pimps get into this business? Like, how did they find themselves in a situation where they're taking advantage of young girls?
Sometimes they learn it from the neighborhood where they grew up. Sometimes it is they hear about it on social media, and sometimes they transition from other illegal activities to human trafficking because those victims of human trafficking are seen as a reusable resource. So it's not like a drug that is you sell it one time and it is done. It is a resource that they can continue to use over and over again.
How young are we talking about with some of these girls?
The youngest that we've recovered here in Atlanta was 9 years old.
How does that happen?
It was more of a neighborhood where she grew up, and she was being exploited in that same neighborhood.
When you get kids that young that are thrown into such a dangerous environment that clearly is going to mess with their head for life, most likely, yes. What do you do when you have these girls and you finally are showing up and saving them, really? What's their reactions or responses? Does it run the gamut?
It does run the gamut. A lot of what we see is they're still very active in their trauma. So many times they're not happy to see us. They feel as though they're going to get in trouble or that they are in trouble. And we work very hard to build a rapport with those victims, whether it be male or female or a transgendered youth. It does not matter. We try to build that rapport. And how we look at this and our task force looks at it is we follow a victim-centered approach. So we try to make that victim whole again. So we, on that initial contact, is just try to relieve the tension, relieve the stress, and afterwards, through our victim services people that we have at the FBI, we hook them up with non-governmental agencies that will be able to see them through their therapies and help.
You mentioned issues at the airport specifically because it's the world's busiest airport, Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson International. Do you see more issues there and at truck stops and places like that that have kind of typically, at least over the course of time, people associate with that activity?
When you're dealing with youth sex trafficking, it's very difficult to transport a child on an airplane because they don't have ID, they don't have identification. So what we see a lot is through other forms of transportation, through either buses or leased vehicles going from one state to another state. The airport we kind of see as where the purchasers will come in and sometimes where the traffickers will fly out to other areas. And that's not to say that it doesn't happen, it's just not as an easy form of transportation for a juvenile victim.
When these offenders are making contact with these young girls, or I suppose not just girls, right? Boys, girls, whoever happens to be victimized. How are they contacting them? Are they homeless in some cases, or what's happening there?
What we have is we have a lot of the primary contact is over social media. So you'll see through any type of the social media contacts, they'll be, they have those hidden instant messages that they can send to the potential victim, whether it be boy or girl or transgender, and they'll form a relationship. The homelessness, we do have children that are homeless, that are throwaway children where their primary caregivers don't want to take care of them and basically throw them out in the streets. We have children that are walkaways, so as their parents might be at work, they walk away from the home, and at the end of the night, they might be able to go back home.
Briefly, is there a profile for the kind of person who's engaged in trafficking?
Whether it be a trafficker or a purchaser, there's really no profile. I wish there was. It would make our job a lot easier, but it can be really anybody. It can be any neighborhood in any town in any city that's in the United States.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, shedding some light on this. This can be a horrible, horrible subject, but it's got to be talked about because there are solutions to this as well.
Correct.
So thank you very much for coming in. When Public Affairs on Peach returns, a former stripper who tries to rescue others from human trafficking. We'll be right back.